So, following on from the last part of our meditation, I thought I'd speak about the self-critical mind and the barriers to meditation. And when I first read about barriers to meditation, talked about doubting the practice, doubting the Dharma is an obstacle to understanding the Dharma, and me being quite critical, I thought this sounded like exactly the sort of thing that someone would say if they were trying to start a cult. It sounded, I don't know, just if you don't, I don't know, it just sounded very culty to me, and I didn't really like it. I thought, I don't know, and I really had an issue with that, and for years, and I don't know what stopped me from viewing it in that sort of critical, wary nature. Luckily it did, and I think it was seeing that people who meditate seem to be happier than people who don't meditate, and then going to meditation groups, I could notice that there was a difference between the people who had gone on long meditation retreats and the questions they were asking, and the people who hadn't gone on long meditation retreats, and just little things like the people who were very new to meditation were very twitchy and agitated and fidgety, and they created all sorts of worries. They had little bottles of water, and the bottles had to be stainless steel or glass, and they were usually with some sort of European name on the bottle, and I thought, well, you're only sitting for 45 minutes, you'll be all right without any water, and this isn't, it's a hot day today and it's good to carry around but water, but this was in the winter, and there was a tap next to them, and they were very preoccupied with if they were allowed to bring water into the meditation room, and all these critical thoughts. And I thought, these people are really suffering if they're that agitated about sitting on a cushion for 45 minutes without access to water. And they even though you had access, it was interesting to see how critical and agitated they were about every little thing in the world. And then I thought, well, this meditation seems to be working for some people. And then I realised that it's like running or practicing a sport or an instrument. People who go running get better at running. People who sit quietly get better at sitting quietly. And if you can't sit down for 5 minutes without worry, then you should try and practice sitting down for 5 minutes without worrying. And it seemed to me as simple as that. And if I wanted to be at peace, I should practice being peaceful. Before I said, no, running is my meditation, and running was an enjoyable activity, and I got very good at running. But when I stopped running, I didn't get very peaceful. So I was only peaceful when I was running, and I was usually only peaceful if I was running slightly downhill with the wind behind me, so I felt like I was a bit better than I was. And then you realise, okay, so the barriers to progression in meditation are in critical thought, and then things started opening up for me, and especially with my metta meditation, I could feel a barrier to opening up with my metta. I could feel like I couldn't. There was something stopping me from relaxing. I could feel a tension in my body, and there was a fear, like, what if I completely open up to this? What if I completely let go? Like, with my, I don't know, like, I felt like I'd fall over. So then I thought, I'll combat this, and in my room I did my meditation of lying on the floor on my back, and I noticed that I was still scared of falling off. There was this inbuilt tension in my body that was scared, and there was real fear of relaxing any further. And it's not to say I wasn't relaxed or had metta or kindness, but I felt that I could be kinder and relaxed and give more to these thoughts if only I let myself relax. And then I noticed these chronic tensions in my body, and that's when things really started moving, and I really do feel that metta meditation is good for us to discover our own barriers, especially when we've been meditating for a while, and we turn that on ourselves, and we think of that one. We try to make a funny joke, and there was a bit of tumbleweed or something like that, and you're like, oh, why did I say that in front of my boss? And that joke was a little bit inappropriate or something, but that joke that fell on deaf ears, it wasn't funny, so they're not going to remember, but you remember the time that you weren't, I don't know, funny, or you were, or something like a little thing like that, and you realise you've replayed it over in your head, and you've created this narrative of you being like less than other people, or worrying about people being critical of you for this one comment that no one else cared about. And if we can forgive ourselves for that little thing in a metta meditation at the end, that's so powerful to removing other barriers. It realises that we have got a critical mind, and we can look into the nature of the critical mind, and we can start dismantling it, because on a practical level it's not helpful, and on a Buddhist theoretical level all thoughts are non-self, and if you're going to get rid of thoughts, you might as well get rid of the thoughts that keep pointing out your failures. That seems like a better, and then you're like, oh well, that might be a good way to be happy, to stop I don't know, exercising this mind that's constantly telling me that I'm I don't know, unfunny, or this, or negative, some sort of negative self-view. So it really is a practice that the diagnosis and the treatment are the same, and there comes a point where Vipassana meditation and Anapana, Vipassana mindfulness of the body, Anapanasati mindfulness of the in and out breath, and metta meditation almost converge, and our understanding of ourselves, and as I like to always mention, that Jesus says, look to the kingdom of heaven within, and when we really understand ourselves and the critical nature, things really start to open up. Another book I quite like, written by this non-denominational spiritual seeker, Wayne Weirs, described it as the less there is of you, the more there is of her, and her was his interpretation of what Christians would call the Holy Ghost, or the Atman in Hinduism, this force that's within us and outside of us, and the less there is of this critical thought, and the less there is of thought in general, the more we realise that there's this loving kindness energy that exists, which is real. These critical thoughts are interpretations of the world, which is interpretations of the past. They're not real, but this metta energy is real, and as my preceptor, the person who ordained me as a monk, Ajahn Amaro, Longpo Amaro, as I might start calling him, repeatedly said in several of his books that metta is the foundation of reality, and it's true. It's this energy, this force is a real force. It's a real kindness, and in the West we can quite quickly identify an awkwardness in a room when we've just walked into a room after there's been an argument, and we can feel that that tension is real, but we sometimes find it so easy to dismiss the equal and opposite kindness energy, and I just wanted to share those thoughts on how metta meditation is not just a 10-minute thing that we do here and there to tick a box. It really can be a foundational part of our practice. In mindfulness, it might be more predominant in Mahayana Buddhism and Zen Buddhism, but in mindfulness, insight, or Theravada, whatever you want to call it, that Buddhism that's in Thailand and Sri Lanka it's metta meditation is just as important. So those are my thoughts for today. Thank you, Anumodana.